Assalamualaikum and good evening to Dr. Zuliana. Today, my group and I will be presenting the topic of freedom of speech and expression in Malaysia. Before we start, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Umi Alia Nazira Mati Yusof, number matric 300274. To start our presentation, we would like to show you a short video related to our topic.
Madani, jangan menipu. Air negeri ditakut pemerintah di mana? Di mana dia? Harta negeri. Harta negeri Sabah ada di Putrajaya.
Kami sekarang berada di hadapan Putrajaya.
Zulkifli Arif berkata pihaknya bimbang terhadap tindakan berkenaan yang disifatkan sebagai satu bentuk perbuatan yang cuba menakut-nakutkan terhadap suara anak muda.
The meaning of freedom of speech and expression is everyone has the right to voice opinion and idea, also can share information in any form. In human right, this is known as freedom of expression. It prohibits the government and other parties in society from doing censorship and can only be blocked for very serious reason. The concept of freedom of speech is often associated with the freedom to express one's thoughts. This freedom of expression has been provided for under Article 10(1)(a) of the Federal Constitution. Undoubtedly, freedom of expression is an essential foundation of all kinds of fundamental right and freedom guaranteed by the Constitution. Is a country that practices a parliamentary democratic system, freedom of expression is very important because without this freedom, the life of a democratic society cannot be carried out perfectly. Okay, next. From the point of view of constitutional principle, freedom of speech is considered the main pillar of a democratic system. This principle supports the ability of citizens to play an active role in the democratic process, including evaluating government policies, criticizing administrative witness, as well as contributing ideas for system improvement. In the Federal Constitution of Malaysia, Article 10(1)(a) recognizes freedom of expression as a fundamental right of citizens. However, this principle is implemented in conjunction with Article 10(1), which gives Parliament the power to impose restrictions to safeguard national security, public order, moral principle, as well as good relation between various races and religion in the country. This means that the principle of freedom of expression in Malaysia is not only based on liberal democratic value but also balanced with the need to maintain social harmony and stability. From elemental aspect, freedom of expression in Malaysia is influenced by several important elements. First, there are laws regulating public expression, such as the Section Act 1948, which allow the royal to act against any speech or publication that may incite hatred against a particular royal institution, judiciary, or race. Second, there is the Communication and Multimedia Act 1998, which is often used to investigate or prosecute individuals who allegedly disseminate defamatory, hateful, or provocative information on social media. Third, the role of the media and media freedom are also important elements in assessing the level of freedom of expression. Despite Malaysian progress in the Global Media Freedom Index, There are reports that the media still face pressure in reporting on sensitive issues involving government institution or powerful figure. For the theory, we use the marketplace of idea theory founded by the thinkers such as John Milton. This theory states that in a free society, various ideas and opinions should be allowed to compete openly and freely, and the truth will emerge through a healthy process of action of view. This supports the principle that the government should not be a filter to information but instead allow citizens to judge and make their own decision.
Next, we move to the analysis of the topic. In Malaysia, the right to freedom of speech, assembly and association is protected under the Article 10 of the Federal Constitution. This gives every citizen the right to express opinion and gather peacefully. However, this freedom has legal limits such as the Sedition Act in 1948 are often used to prevent speech involving sensitive topics like races, religion and the royal institution known as 3R issues. These include matters such as the special right of Malay and other indigenous people, Bumiputra in Article 153, the position of the king, and the status of the Malay language as the national language. From Motwa advocate the incitement to nation, races and religious incite violence, and discrimination should also be prohibited. It is important to take note because it is to protect our national security, public order and social harmony. One of the main challenges in ensuring freedom of speech and expression in Malaysia is about the sensitivity to races and religious issues. This is because Malaysia is one of the countries that implement this multiracial and multi-religious. Secondly, is unrestrained the use of social media may cause the spread of fake news and provocation such as irresponsible posts, offensive comments and harmful jokes. Next, we move to the current practices. So, the number one is the use of law to restrict freedom of speech. The Sedition Act in 1948 is used to stop any speech or action that may cause hatred, especially on sensitive 3R issues, which is races, religion, and royalty. The Communication and Multimedia Act in 1998 control online content such as fake news and offensive posts on platforms like Facebook or TikTok. And the user can be investigated or fined if their content threatens public safety. The Printing Processes and Publication Act in 1948 allowed the government to control newspaper and books and cancel the license if their content is harmful to public order. The Official Secret Act in 1942 protect government secret. Okay, next we move to the second point, which is digital and social media. Okay, under Article 10 of the Federal Constitution, freedom of speech in Malaysia is limited by law like Sedition Act in 1948 and the Communication and Multimedia Act in 1998. This law regulate what can be said or shared, especially on digital platforms, social media. Malaysian, especially young people, use social media to share political opinion, criticize government policies, and discuss social issues like education. Social media makes it easier for information to spread quickly, allowing citizens to participate in public discussion. However, users must be careful to respect the law by avoiding hate speech or spreading false information that could harm national harmony, especially around sensitive 3R issues. The Malaysian Communication and Multimedia Commission, which is MCMC, actively monitors social media to ensure content remains appropriate and action can be taken against individuals who break this law, such as through the Sedition Act or the Communication and Multimedia Act. Next, we move to the last point, which is public forum. Having a space for open public discussion like forum, it is important to speak out the societal wants and needs. In a parliamentary democracy, it is essential for citizens to have a platform to voice their views, to contribute to societal maturity, and help the government understand the needs of its people. Universities, NGOs, and community groups often organize forums, seminars, and dialogues to allow free discussion on political issues, social issues, and economic issues. For example, the Minister of the Communication and Digital attended the World Media Freedom Day Forum in 2023, which is focused on the importance of freedom of speech as fundamental human right. Public forum helped create a space for diverse voices to be heard, especially those for minorities or underrepresented groups. It is for policy making and decision making to the government. And the public forum is good to generate news ideas, address societal challenges in a creative and practical way between individuals with their different background, races, and gender.
Now, let's look at one of the key issues related to our topic, which is the limitation of freedom. Although freedom is a fundamental right, it is important to understand that freedom has its limits, especially when it affects the rights and safety of others or the security of the nation. In other words, our freedom can be stopped by the law when it goes against public interest or endangers national security. This is clearly stated under Article 10(2)(a) of the Federal Constitution of Malaysia. According to this article, Parliament may impose restrictions on this right to freedom of speech and expression in the interest of the security of the Federation or any part of it, relation with other countries, public order, protecting the privilege of Parliament or the State Assembly, avoiding contempt of court, preventing slander, and preventing the act of inciting people to make a mistake or commit a wrong. So now look at the real-life case study that highlights how freedom and activists can sometimes come into conflict with the law, which is the case of Maria Chin Abdullah, the former chairperson of Bersih. Maria was a prominent activist advocating for electoral reform and clean governance in Malaysia. In 2016, Bersih put forward 5 key demands, which is clean and fair elections, combat corruption, freedom of expression and assembly, parliamentary reform, and empowerment of the democratic system. However, just a day before the Bersih 5 assembled on 18 November 2016, Maria was arrested under the Security Offence Special Measure Act or SOSMA. She was detained in solitary confinement at a secret location and denied access to her lawyer or family for 11 days. The action received widespread criticism locally and internationally, with many viewing it as an abuse of power meant to silence civil society. Finally, she was released on 28 November 2016, and despite the order, Maria continued to advocate for human rights and democratic reforms. This case clearly shows the tension between state security laws and civil liberties, particularly the rights to assemble peacefully and speak freely, and it connects directly to our earlier discussion on how freedom can be limited by the law. So let's move to another part, which is SWOT analysis. First, let's highlight the key strengths, which is a primary strength is the bold leadership that has been demonstrated. This refers to the courage and assertiveness in taking of challenging issues and pushing for change. Next, there is a strong voice for justice and democracy. This indicates a clear and impactful articulation of principles and demands for a more equitable and democratic society. A very specific and significant strength is the ability to lead Bersih 5 with a clear objective. This points to successful organization, strategic planning, and a well-defined goal for a major public initiative. And finally, the overall demonstration of leadership qualities is a crucial strength. This encompasses various attributes like vision, resilience, and the ability to inspire and mobilize others. Now, let's honestly look at the weaknesses that have been identified. Understanding this is crucial for improvement and strategic planning. A significant weakness is the limit of freedom of speech. This internal vulnerability or external restriction hampers open dialogue and the ability to express dissent or alternative viewpoints without repercussions. The arrest of Maria showed weaknesses in allowing full democratic expression. This event specifically highlighted systemic issues or internal vulnerabilities that allow such an action to occur, thereby undermining the space for democratic expressions. And critically, a broader weakness is the rights to protest and speak are not fully protected. This suggests deficiencies in the legal framework or its enforcement, leaving individuals vulnerable when exercising their fundamental rights. As the opportunities we have identified, these are external factors that we can leverage for positive change. First, there's a significant opportunity to raise political awareness among the people. This involves educating them about their rights, the electoral process, and the impact of government decisions on their daily life. Secondly, we see an opportunity to educate the public on the importance of clean and fair elections. This is vital for upholding the integrity of our democratic institutions and ensuring that the voice of the people is truly heard. Third, there is a strong potential to encourage democratic participation. This could be through various channels, from active voting to community engagement and grassroots initiative. And finally, a powerful opportunities in creating an opportunity for the public to demand government reform. Empowering citizens to hold their leaders accountable is essential for progressive governance. Shift to the truth. These are external challenges that could hinder our progress and need to be carefully navigated. A significant threat is the government's use of law to restrict activists, can stifle dissent and limit the space for civil society organizations to operate effectively. Another concern is that peaceful rallies are seen as threats to national security. This framing can lead to unwarranted crackdowns and discourage public assembly. We also face the threat of detention of activists, which serve as a powerful deterrent to public participation and can avoid trust. These actions collectively contribute the risk that public participation may decrease as people become fearful or disillusioned. And finally, a critical threat is the potential for public trust in the justice system to decrease. If people lose faith in the fairness and impartiality of the legal system, it undermines the rule of law and democratic principles.
Now, I will begin by discussing how we can promote responsible freedom of speech. Everyone has their right to speak, but it must be done ethically and responsibly. One of the main weaknesses we identify is that freedom of speech in Malaysia is limited by law. Therefore, we suggest strengthening the national education system, especially through civic education. This will help people understand their rights, responsible, and the law that protect or limit speech. This helps people to understand democracy and avoid misuse of law. Next, we propose that the government create an official platform for public dialogue. This gives people a peaceful and constructive way to express their views. Social media should also be used strategically to spread awareness about fair and transparent elections. Next, we also recognize a growing concern of a new law related to religion, race, and royalty, also known as 3R issue. This law might limit media freedom, which is worrying. The media is important because it serves as the voice and ears of the public. Lastly, to strengthen and monitor freedom of speech in Malaysia, we suggest forming a Freedom of Expression Commission. This independent body should include legal experts, civil society, Suhakam, media representative, and academics. Its role would be to monitor any abuse of power related to speech restriction, propose legal improvement, and publish an annual report on the status of freedom of expression in Malaysia. This helps build public trust and ensures accountability. In conclusion, freedom of expression is a vital part of a democratic society. It allows us to share ideas, voice our concern, and hold those in power accountable. However, this right must be exercised responsibly. In a diverse and digital world, we must be careful not to spread false information or hate speech. By respecting legal boundaries and promoting respectful dialogue, we can help create a more mature, informed, and united society. That's all. Thank you.